12 years. That's how long my front door stayed silent. No visits, no calls, no messages. Nothing. So when the door suddenly swung open that morning, if this story touched your heart, friends, please like the video, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe for more touching stories. Thank you for being here. The last people I expected to see were standing on my porch. My daughter, Eliana, and her husband, Darren. Their smiles were practiced, stiff, almost painfully fake. But their eyes, those eyes, were filled with a kind of desperation you can't hide, not even behind forced politeness. "Eliana," I whispered, unable to stop myself. 12 years? And now you show up? They glanced past me, their gazes sweeping across my new coastal home. The white marble floors, the ocean blue decor, the wide windows framing the endless sea. I could see it clearly. Surprise first, then envy, and then something uglier. "Mom," Eliana's voice trembled. We need to talk." I stepped aside and let them in. Not because I missed them, but because I wanted to see what story they had crafted after more than a decade of silence. They sat down on the cream sofa like guilty students awaiting a verdict. Darren kept adjusting his collar, stealing glances around the room as if he were mentally measuring the cost of everything he saw. "So," I said calmly, "what brings you here after all this time?" Eliana swallowed hard. "Mom, things have been difficult lately. Darren lost his job. Our house is about to be taken away. The kids are stressed. We really need help." There it was. Not remorse, not love, not longing, just need. The kind that only appears when people hit rock bottom. I felt something ache inside me, but not the way it used to. Years ago, their absence would have shattered me. But now I had rebuilt myself from the ground up, piece by piece. "So let me understand," I said softly. "For 12 years, no birthday calls, no holiday visits, no photos of my grandchildren, nothing. And now you're here because you want financial help?" Darren jumped in quickly, trying to control the narrative. "It's not like that. We were just busy. Life got complicated." A tiny laugh escaped me. "Complicated enough to forget your own mother. For 12 years straight." They both dropped their gaze. I remembered every lonely Christmas, every silent birthday, every meal I cooked for one. I remember working myself to exhaustion, selling homemade desserts just to survive, while they lived their life without me. But now, suddenly, now that I lived in a $1 million beach house, I was worth remembering. "Eliana," I said carefully, "you didn't come here because you miss me. You came because you're scared, broke, and out of options. Isn't that the truth?" Her eyes filled with tears. Too fast, too perfectly timed. Maybe once I would have believed them, but not anymore. Something in their faces told me this visit wasn't just about money. There was something else, something they were avoiding. A truth hidden beneath the desperation. I leaned back, watching them closely. What were they not telling me? I could feel it. A storm was coming, and this was only the first raindrop. What Eliana said next didn't just explain their sudden visit. It revealed a secret that would shake the foundation of everything I thought I knew about my family. For a moment, no one spoke. Only the sound of the waves outside filled the silence between us. Then Eliana finally exhaled, her shoulders shaking. "Mom, there's something we haven't told you." Of course there was. People don't show up after 12 years just because they need to talk. There's always a deeper reason, and usually a darker one. Darren stiffened beside her, clearly unhappy she was about to say something he hadn't approved. "Eliana," he muttered, his jaw tight, "we agreed." "No," she snapped quietly. "She deserves the truth." That alone shocked me. The Eliana I remembered would have never spoken against him, not even gently. So whatever had happened, it was bigger than money. Much bigger. I leaned forward. "Just tell me." She inhaled, as if mustering the courage to reopen a wound, then said the words that made my stomach twist. "Mom, we didn't just lose the house. We're being sued." My heart sank. "Sued by who?" Eliana hesitated, then whispered, "By Darren's own company. For fraud." My eyes flew to Darren. Fraud? The man who once proudly lectured me about responsibility? The man who used to roll his eyes when Eliana visited me because I was a bad influence? Fraud? He clenched his jaw. "It's not fraud. It's a misunderstanding. They're blaming me for something I didn't do." Eliana let out a small, broken laugh, so bitter it almost hurt to hear it. "Darren, stop lying, please. Not here, not now." Darren's eyes flashed with anger, but for the first time, he looked powerless, like a man who had run out of excuses. I folded my arms. "Explain." Eliana inhaled, as if mustering the courage to reopen a wound. "Mom, 6 months ago, Darren was handling client accounts. Money was missing. A lot of it. They accused him of taking it, and then Darren cut in angrily. I didn't take anything." But Eliana continued as if she hadn't heard him, and then all our savings disappeared from our personal account too. The room stilled Silim. I stared at Darren. "You took your family's savings?" His jaw dropped open. "I had to. I thought I could fix things. The company would have paid me back. It was temporary." Eliana covered her face with both hands, sobbing. "Temporary? You left us with nothing. Nothing, Darren. And now they want the money back or they're going to press charges." I felt my pulse slow. Not out of shock, but out of clarity. This was the real reason they came. Not just poverty, not just desperation. They needed a way out of something far uglier. "Mom," Eliana whispered, "we didn't know who else to turn to. Your inheritance, your new home. People say you might be able to help us." There it was, the truth wrapped in trembling words. This wasn't a visit. It was a plea for rescue, a request for me to save them from consequences they had earned on their own. I stared into my daughter's eyes that once sparkled with innocence, now clouded with fear and regret. Maybe some part of her genuinely missed me. Maybe. But this visit? This wasn't reconciliation. It was survival. "Eliana," I said gently, "you came because you're scared, because your husband dragged you into a disaster he created. But tell me honestly," I locked eyes with her, "if I still lived in my tiny apartment, if I still sold pies at the farmer's market, would you be standing here today?" She froze. Her silence was the answer. What none of us knew then was that this lawsuit was only the surface. The real secret, the one that would change everything, was something Darren had been hiding, even from Eliana.
Eliana's silence hung in the room like a confession. It told me everything she couldn't say out loud. If I were still poor, if I were still living in that cramped apartment, if I were still the mother they abandoned, they would have never come. Darren cleared his throat sharply, annoyed by the emotional direction the conversation was taking. "Look, Annabelle," he said, leaning forward as if negotiating a deal. "This is getting dramatic. What matters is that we need money, and you have it. We're family. It's natural to help each other in times like these." Family. He said it so casually, as if 12 years of silence could be wiped away like dust from a table. I stared at him, not angry, just amazed at how someone could twist reality into whatever suited him. Eliana wiped her eyes, suddenly looking anywhere but at her husband. There was something she wasn't saying, something heavier than the lawsuit, heavier than the missing savings, heavier than the fraud charges. And Darren could sense it too because he immediately tensed, his shoulders going rigid. "Eliana," he muttered warningly, "don't start." She ignored him this time. "Mom, there's more." Darren's hand shot toward her wrist, gripping it tightly. "Eliana, not here." That was all I needed to see. The fear in her eyes, the pressure in his voice, the silent war happening between them. "Let her speak," I said firmly. Darren glared at me as if I had cut the strings of a puppet he'd controlled for years. Eliana slowly pulled her wrist from his grip, her voice barely above a breath. "Mom, Darren didn't just lose company money. He owes money to people outside work." A cold sensation crawled through me. "People," I repeated. "What kind of people?" She swallowed hard. "The kind you don't call the police about. The kind who show up at your door in the middle of the night." My heart dropped. Darren exploded instantly. "That's exaggerated. They're just people I borrowed from. Loan sharks." Eliana shouted suddenly. Her voice cracked through the room like a slap. Darren's face went pale. And finally, the truth started to unravel. Eliana's hands trembled as she continued. "After the company accused him of fraud, he panicked. Instead of talking to me, he tried to replace the missing money by borrowing from dangerous people. And when they asked for repayment, he didn't have it." I stared at Darren. "You put your family in danger." He bristled, defensive and proud in the worst way. "I did what I had to do. My career was on the line. Everything I built. You don't understand." "No," I interrupted softly. "You don't understand what you've done to your wife and children." For a moment, no one spoke. Eliana looked small, fragile, like the girl she used to be, the one who curled in my lap during thunderstorms and begged me not to let go. "Mom," she whispered, "they said if we don't repay soon, they'll come after us, after the kids." My breath caught in my chest. I had been angry, furious even. But this wasn't just irresponsibility or greed. This was danger, real danger. "Eliana," I said, my voice shaking, "how long has this been happening?" She held her breath. 3 months. 3 months. The same time rumors of my inheritance had begun spreading through town. So that's why she reached out. Not because she wanted her mother back, but because she was terrified. And because Darren had dragged her into something she could never escape alone. I looked at them. My daughter drowning in fear. Her husband drowning in pride. Their marriage drowning in secrets. But even then, something inside me whispered, this is still not the whole truth. Darren shifted uncomfortably, avoiding my eyes. And that's when I realized he was hiding something even darker. Something he hadn't told Eliana. Something he hoped I would never find out. And when that final secret came out, it wouldn't just threaten their lives. It would pull me into a danger I never asked for and couldn't ignore. For several long seconds, the room felt frozen. Eliana trembling, Darren fuming, and me trying to piece together the truth buried under their half-confessions. But deep in my gut, I knew. There was still something Darren hadn't said. He avoided my eyes every time Eliana mentioned danger. He flinched when she talked about the loan sharks. He tensed whenever the conversation drifted toward the past. Men like him don't fear guilt. They fear exposure. "Darren," I said quietly, "what aren't you telling us?" He stiffened. "I've told you everything." Eliana shook her head. "No, you haven't. You said the money would come back, that you had a plan. You never explained what that meant." His jaw tightened. I had it under control until what? I pressed. He looked at the floor. Eliana slowly turned toward him, tears clinging to her lashes. "Darren, what did you do?" Silence. And then a crack. "A deal," he muttered finally. "I made a deal.
My heart dropped. What kind of deal? Darren rubbed his face with both hands. They told me I could stop the debt if I helped them move something. Just one job, one delivery. Eliana's hand flew to her mouth. Darren, what kind of delivery? He didn't answer. He didn't need to. The truth was written on his face. And suddenly, the lawsuits, the missing company funds, the late-night visits, all of it, made a chilling kind of sense. Oh my God, Eliana whispered. They're criminals. You made a deal with criminals. Darren exploded finally. What was I supposed to do? Let them take our house? Ruin my name? I just needed the money replaced. I thought if I helped them once, they'd leave us alone. I stared at him, stunned. You agreed to help people who extort families? He bristled, defensive and proud in the worst way. I did what I had to do. They would have destroyed everything. Eliana was shaking violently now. You lied to me for months. You put us all in danger. Our kids. Darren, our kids could have been hurt. He looked at her, and for the first time that day, genuine fear flickered in his eyes. I only wanted to fix it before you found out. I never wanted it to reach this point. I exhaled slowly, trying to keep my voice steady. And now, what do they want now? His answer was almost a whisper. They want the money. All of it. Within 2 weeks. Or the deal is off. And off means what? I asked. Darren swallowed hard. It means they won't care who gets hurt. The room fell into a suffocating silence. Outside, the ocean waves crashed against the rocks, steady, relentless, inescapable. Eliana suddenly grabbed my hand, her grip tight and desperate. Mom, I'm scared. I don't know what to do anymore. I don't know how to keep my children safe. I didn't even know who I married. I looked at her, my only child, broken, terrified, and trapped in a mess she never saw coming. And even though she'd broken my heart, despite everything, she was still my daughter. But before I could speak, before I could decide whether to comfort her or confront her, the doorbell rang. Once. Twice. 3 slow, heavy chimes. The kind of knock that chills your bones. Darren's face drained of color instantly. Eliana jumped, clutching my arm. I stood up slowly, my heart beating in my ears. Who is that? I whispered. Darren didn't answer. He didn't have to. His expression told me everything. Whoever was on the other side of my door was not here by accident. And when I opened that door, the people standing outside weren't strangers. They were connected to a part of my past I thought was dead forever.
The knocking didn't stop. 3 slow thuds. A pause, then 3 more. Deliberate. Calculated. Like someone announcing they already knew they'd be let in. Darren looked as if his soul had left his body. Eliana's nails dug into my arm. Darren, I whispered, is it them? He didn't reply. He didn't need to. I walked toward the door, my legs unsteady. Behind me, Eliana trembled, and Darren paced like a trapped animal. I pulled the door open just a few inches. 2 men stood there, both dressed in dark, spotless clothes, both wearing expressions that didn't belong to neighbors or strangers lost on the beach. Their eyes scanned every corner of the entrance, sharp and cold. But what made my breath stop was the third person standing slightly behind them, a man I knew, a man I hadn't seen in nearly 15 years, a man from a chapter of my life I had burned and buried. My late brother's old friend, Victor Hale. If anyone on this earth could bring danger to my doorstep, it was him. He stepped forward, giving a thin, practiced smile. Annabelle, he said in a smooth, unsettling tone. Long time no see. My stomach tightened. Victor, what are you doing here? His eyes flicked past me and landed on Darren almost instantly. You must be the son-in-law. His smile widened. Funny how small the world is. Eliana gasped.
You know them?" I couldn't look at her. Victor was not just an old acquaintance. He was the kind of man who thrived in gray areas, the kind of man who helped my brother years ago during his darkest times. After my brother died, Victor disappeared, or so I thought. But now he stood on my porch like a ghost from a past I never wanted to revisit. "Let's make this simple," Victor said, nodding at the two men behind him. "Darren here owes us money, a lot of it. And when I heard the name Annabelle Hale was connected to him," he shrugged casually, "I figured it couldn't be the same Annabelle I knew. Lucky for Darren, unlucky for me, it was." My voice dropped to a whisper. "You're still doing this kind of work?" He smirked. "Some things never change." Darren stepped forward, his desperation clashing with arrogance. "I said I'd pay you. I just need time." Victor waved a hand. "You've had time. Now we're here for the money. All of it." Eliana clutched her chest, trying not to collapse. "You can't threaten us. We have kids," she whispered. Victor's expression softened for a single chilling second. "That's exactly why I'm here personally. I don't want anyone getting hurt. Not them, and definitely not Annabelle." My pulse froze. Why was he suddenly being gentle with me? Then Victor looked straight into my eyes, and I understood. He wasn't here just because of Darren. He was here because he had a past with me, a past I had never told Eliana about, a past I hoped she would never discover. "Annabelle," Victor said quietly, "you and I go way back, so I'm giving you one chance to fix this for your family." Darren's mouth fell open in disbelief. You know her? Why didn't you say anything?" Victor didn't bother answering him. He only kept looking at me. And when he spoke again, his voice was soft, but deadly serious. "Help him, or you and your daughter will face consequences neither of you are prepared for." The threat was subtle, but unmistakable. I felt something twist inside me. Fear, anger, old memories I never wanted to resurface. I stepped outside, closing the door behind me so Eliana wouldn't hear. "Victor," I whispered, "what do you really want from me?" He leaned in, his voice like ice. "Something you took from your brother years ago." My breath stopped. No, this couldn't be happening. Not that. Not after all these years. Because what Victor claimed I had taken wasn't money. It was a secret so dangerous that if it came out, it would destroy not just Darren, but my daughter's entire life. The moment Victor said those words, "something you took from your brother," my entire world tilted. Cold air hit my lungs. My heartbeat stumbled. "No, Victor, don't bring that up. Not now, not here." He raised an eyebrow. "So you do remember?" "Of course I remember. How could I forget? 15 years ago, before my brother died, he had begged me to protect something he didn't trust anyone else with, something dangerous. And now, Victor was here for it." I looked back at the closed door where Eliana and Darren waited inside, terrified and unaware. "Victor," I said through clenched teeth, "whatever you think I have, it's gone. I don't have anything from my brother anymore." His expression didn't move. "You're lying." "I'm not." "Yes," he said calmly, "you are." The two men behind him subtly shifted, their hands resting near their jackets, a silent warning. "Victor," I whispered urgently, My daughter is inside. Don't involve her in this. He tilted his head. Then give me what's mine. I stepped back. I told you, I don't have it. Victor's smile vanished. He leaned closer, his voice lowering to a dangerous whisper. Annabelle, your brother owed us something far more valuable than money. When he died, you were the last person he saw. And right before he went, he gave you a package, a small black case. My hands started to tremble. I remembered. God, I remembered. Too clearly. It was raining that night. My brother had been bleeding. He pressed that case into my hands and said, "Don't let them get this. Promise me." And I had promised. Victor's voice snapped me back to the present. "Where is it, Annabelle?" "I destroyed it," I whispered. "Years ago." Victor's eyes darkened. "Now you're insulting me. I'm telling the truth." But he only stepped forward until his breath touched my cheek. That case had information in it that belongs to me. Information people would kill for. So unless you want the same fate as your brother, you better tell me where it is. My knees nearly buckled. Behind me, the door creaked open a crack. Eliana's face appeared. "Mom?" she whispered. "What's going on?" I straightened. Immediately. His expression turned neutral, almost polite. "Eliana," he said smoothly, "my mother and I are just catching up, you know." Eliana's eyes darted to me, confused, shaky. "Mom, is everything okay?" No, nothing was okay. But I forced a comforting smile. "Go inside, sweetheart. I'm handling it." She hesitated, then closed the door again. Victor watched the door shut, then turned back to me. "You have 72 hours. Find the case, bring it to me, and maybe, just maybe, I'll forget Darren exists." I stared at him, horrified. "You're using my daughter's family as leverage?" He smiled coldly. "I'm giving you motivation." He turned and walked back toward the car. The two men followed silently. But before getting in, Victor looked over his shoulder. "Oh, and Annabelle." I held my breath. "If you involve the police, the first people who pay the price won't be Darren. It'll be your grandchildren." My vision blurred. The car drove away. I stood there frozen on the porch, fighting fear, anger, and a rage I hadn't felt in years. Inside, Eliana burst out of the door. "Mom, who were they? What did they want? Why did you close the door?" I looked at her. My daughter, terrified, unaware that our entire lives were seconds away from unraveling. "Eliana," I whispered, "there's something I never told you about your uncle, about the past, and now it's all coming back." Her face went pale. "Mom, what secret?"
Eliana stared at me as if the ground beneath her had disappeared. "Murdered?" she whispered. "Mom, what are you saying?" I closed the door slowly, locking it, then leaned against it to steady myself. For 15 years, I had buried this story deep inside me, convincing myself it would never matter again. But now it was clawing its way back to the surface. "Eliana," I said, "sit down. Both of you." Darren slowly approached, still pale, still shaking, not from guilt this time, but from the realization that the threat outside was bigger than anything he'd imagined. They sat. I remained standing, pacing in front of them, trying to find the courage to peel open wounds I had spent years sealing shut. "You've always been told," I began softly,
That your uncle died in an accident. Eliana nodded slowly. That's what everyone said. That his car skidded off the road? That's what I said, Eliana. I told everyone that story because the truth would have destroyed us. Her brows knit together. Then what really happened? My breath trembled. Your uncle was involved with people who dealt in dangerous information. Documents, contacts, offshore accounts, things criminals and corporations would kill for. Darren swallowed hard. So the black case? I said it held evidence, enough to put powerful men behind bars. But your uncle didn't trust anyone. Not the police, not his friends, only me. Eliana covered her mouth. He gave it to you? I nodded. That night, I whispered, he arrived at my apartment bleeding. He pressed the case into my hands and said, "Don't let them get it. If anything happens to me, don't open it. Just hide it." What happened next? Eliana asked, barely breathing. I called for help, but my voice broke. It was too late. Eliana's eyes filled with tears. But why didn't you tell anyone? Because before he died, I continued, 2 men came looking for him. They threatened me. They warned me that if he had given me anything, I would end up like him. Both of them froze. Darren stammered, "So this Victor guy, he was part of that world?" I said, "Not just part of it. He was one of the masterminds. Your uncle trusted him once, until he realized Victor was selling information to groups far more dangerous." Eliana clutched the sofa. "And the case? The evidence? What did you do with it?" I took a shaky breath. "I hid it for years. Then, after you stopped speaking to me, I got scared someone might use it to hurt you. So, I destroyed it." Darren shot up from the sofa. "You what?" Eliana glared at him. "Darren, sit down." But Darren was panicking. "That case could have saved us. I could have used it. They would have called off the debt." "That case," I snapped, "is the reason your life is in danger now. It was poison, Darren. The kind that kills anyone who touches it." Eliana grabbed my hands. "Mom, does Victor know it's gone?" I said quietly, "Yes, but he doesn't believe me, and now he thinks I still have it." The room turned ice cold. "So," Eliana whispered, "what happens in 72 hours? I looked at her, my child, shaking, terrified, and trapped in something she never asked for. "We have 3 days," I said, "before Victor comes back expecting answers." "And if we don't have them?" Darren asked. My eyes met his. "He will come after all of us." Silence swallowed the room. Then Eliana wiped her tears suddenly, her expression shifting. "Mom," she said, her voice steadier than I heard in years, "if that case is the reason my uncle died, and it's the reason Victor is after us now," she stood up slowly, "then we need to find something else he wants." A chill ran through my veins. "Eliana, what are you thinking?" She looked at the door, where Victor had stood minutes ago, and then back at us with a determination I hadn't seen in years. "We're not running anymore." Because Eliana's next plan wasn't just bold, it was reckless enough to put us face to face with the very people who killed her uncle, and might kill us next. The warehouse stood at the edge of the coastline like a burned-out skeleton, its metal siding rusted, its windows shattered long ago. This was where my brother had been last seen, and where everything had ended for him. Eliana clutched my arm as we approached, her breath visible in the cold morning air. Darren walked behind us, jumpy and pale, constantly checking over his shoulder as if Victor's men would leap from the shadows. The warehouse door creaked as I pushed it open. Dim light filtered through broken panels, revealing cracked cement floors, rotted beams, and dust swirling in every direction. But something felt wrong. Too quiet, too still, as if the place had been waiting for us. Eliana, stay close. We stepped deeper inside. That's when a figure shifted in the far corner. Eliana gasped. Darren stumbled back. A woman emerged from the shadows. Thin, sharp-featured, her hair tied back, her clothes worn but clean. Her eyes, cold, intelligent, and piercing, landed on me instantly. "I was wondering when you'd arrive," she said. My breath caught. "Marin." Her lips twitched. Not a smile, not relief, but something complicated. "You still recognize me?" she said quietly. "After all these years?" Eliana looked between us. You're real? You're alive?" Marin's gaze softened for a moment. "I disappear only when necessary. Victor has been hunting me for over a decade." Darren's voice cracked. "Did you kill my boss's accountant? Did you take the money? Did you—" Marin cut him off with a glare sharp enough to slice him in half. "I don't care about your fraud mess, boy. I care about the thing your brother tried to protect." My stomach twisted. "Marin," I said softly, "I destroyed the case. It's gone." For the first time, she stepped closer, her anger flickering. "No, Annabelle, the case wasn't what mattered. The contents were." Darren blinked. "Contents?" Marin ignored him completely. "Eliana," she said, turning toward my daughter, "your uncle discovered evidence that Victor was laundering money for international groups. That case contained encrypted names, codes, routes, everything." Eliana swallowed. "And if my mom destroyed it, how do we help ourselves now?" Marin sighed, exhausted. "It depends on how much you're willing to risk." I stepped between them. "Enough," I said firmly. "We came here for answers, so tell us what Victor wants." Marin looked at me for a long moment, as if deciding whether she could trust me after all these years. Then she sighed. "Victor doesn't just want revenge for the missing case. He wants to erase every trace of your brother's investigation. If he kills all of us and retrieves whatever he thinks you still have, the trail disappears forever." Eliana's hands trembled. "So, he'll never stop?" "No," Marin said flatly. "He won't." Darren began pacing, panicked. "So what do we do? We can't fight these guys." Marin stared at him coldly. "You don't fight them. You expose them." My heart froze. "Eliana," Marin continued, turning toward my daughter, "your uncle didn't trust the authorities, but I do. I've spent years gathering pieces of his evidence from backup systems he never knew existed. If we release it publicly, Victor loses his power." Darren shook his head violently. "That will get us killed." Marin stared at him coldly. "Not if you do it right." The warehouse suddenly felt smaller, as if the shadows were closing in. "Eliana," I whispered, "this is dangerous." She took my hand. "I know, Mom, but if we don't stop Victor, he'll destroy us anyway." Marin stepped back into the dim light. "I have one final file, the last piece Victor never found. If we take it and release everything together, the entire network collapses." My pulse hammered. "And what happens to us?" Marin's answer was quiet. "You disappear. New identities, new lives, far from Victor's reach." Silence. Then Eliana looked at me with tears in her eyes. "Mom, I don't want to run again, but I don't want to die either." I held her tightly. "We'll do this," I whispered. "Together." Marin nodded slowly, her expression unreadable. "Good," she said, "because you won't have much time." I frowned. "What do you mean?" She pointed behind us. I turned just as a shadow moved outside the warehouse window. Then another, then two more. Marin's voice dropped to a chilling whisper. Because Victor already knows you're here. The warehouse doors slammed shut behind us, and that's when we realized we weren't alone. Victor hadn't been bluffing. He had come for us himself. If this story touched your heart, friends, please like the video, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe for more touching stories. Thank you for being here.